Good morning, happy Friday, and welcome to Sunrise Small Talk episode number 68. Episode 68 and 69 are a continuation of episode 67, where I highlighted 10 things that I think are important from the proposed One Big Beautiful tax bill. So today we're going to go over items 1 through 5. In next week's episode, we're going to go through items 6 through 10. So here we go. All right, before we get into number 1, I would just like to point out that I do know how to spell beautiful, even though I spelled it wrong in the last episode. Let's dive in. Number 1, extension of TCJA. This was pretty much something I presumed would happen after Trump won the election. The TCJA took effect in 2018. It was kind of an 11th hour tax bill that passed back in, I think it was Christmas Eve, actually, in 2017. What it does a lot, but there's really 2 things that I think are important. Tax rates go down and bands expand. So the 12%, the 22%, the 24%, the 32% income bands expand. So overall, what this means is just that this is going to remain in effect, stay in place. Lower rates, expanded bands. Number 2, SALT. What is SALT? That is state and local tax. State and local tax, you get a deduction on your tax return for that. That is currently capped at $10,000, which is part of TCJA. That is going to increase, as it stands of the recording of this video, to $40,000. So if you have a really nice home, obviously you're going to pay more in state and local taxes. The amount you'll be able to deduct will increase, and it will not be capped at the $10,000. We don't see a lot of, this doesn't really come into play in Colorado, California, the Northeast. Obviously comes into effect in those places. Estate tax. So this really is not much of a change, but important to note that this is a big, estate planning attorneys is like a huge moving target. What the estate tax is if you die, you can pass a certain amount of money to your heirs without paying the estate tax or the death tax. That number in 2025 is something like 14,280,000, I don't know, something like that. This is going to be a flat 15 million per spouse. So Kelsey and I can pass down $30 million to our heirs before it would be hit with the 40% death tax or estate tax. This is kind of nice because it's just not as much of a moving target as it used to be, so it makes estate planning a little bit easier. Number 4, this is an interesting one. So the child tax credit goes from $2,000 up to $2,500, so a little increase there. There are some income restrictions on that, but what is interesting was something called the money accounts for growth and advancement. Obvious intention with that acronym there, account. So what happens here is when a child is born, January 1st, 2025, you get $1,000 in the account. Okay, that's pretty cool. From that point, you can contribute, I believe it's up to $5,000 per year. That money can be used for school, education, learning a trade, something like that. It's meant to be kind of like an educational savings account, but here's what's kind of goofy about it is it grows tax deferred, and when you pull the money out, you pay capital gains tax, which to me is really no different than just a individual or a joint account. So I don't really see the benefit there, to be honest. However, increase to the child tax credit, and you get a free $1,000 when you have a kiddo. If you do the math, you're probably not still going to come out ahead on that after you pay the hospital bills. And number 5, last thing we'll go into today is an increase in the standard deduction. So this comes into play. Let's talk about what that means, first of all. So you have 2 options. When you do your taxes, you can take the standard deduction, which is just a set amount, or you can add up all the things, charitable contributions, interest you pay on your mortgage, what else is in there? Business expenses, things like that. You can add all of that up and this would be a variable number. That is not legible, but that says variable. You pick whichever one is higher and you deduct that amount from your income tax, and thus you pay less in tax. Now the standard deduction is massive in that number. Okay, sorry, I had to look it up because it changed to change. This number is 32,000, married, filing jointly. So what this means, let's just say you and your spouse make $32,000. Well, you would deduct $32,000 with the standard deduction and your taxable income would be zero. If you're over 65, you get an additional $4,000 per couple, per person times 2, so another $8,000. So that, quick math, $40,000 standard deduction right off the top. Also, if you're legally blind, you get a little bit on top of that. So those are bullet points 1 through 5. Don't want to go over all 10 today because this video will be pretty long, so we'll dive into 6 through 10 next week.